Hello, my name is Eric, and I run the America's ecosystem for Ontology Network. Today we're going to be going over developing the Ontology ecosystem with a global talent pool. So the Ontology introduction, we're going to go over the public chain, Ontology Technology, our ecosystem, and the global community contributor program. So what is Ontology? Ontology is a high-performance public blockchain and distributed collaboration platform. We enable inclusive finance, a global online workforce reputation management, and global fintech solutions. So broken down, we have a decentralized identity protocol, which we use coupled with what blockchains are good for, which is global digital payments infrastructure. So these two put together, we enable a lot of monetary use cases, from peer-to-peer payments to payments made to merchants for goods and services, down to using payments for employment situations or freelancing situations. We also work on monetization of the individual and organizational data with privacy-preserving features. So with that same decentralized identity protocol that Ontology offers, coupled with the data exchange markets that we work on, you're able to monetize your data and keep it private until you choose to share it with other parties. About our performance, we have 2,000 plus transactions per second. We have low transaction fees. Scalability is something we focus on with cross-chain implementation, sharding implementations, and we are a fast and ready engineering powerhouse. So both the Ontology internal team is working on products and services built on top of Ontology, as well as the global community that we have. More about our global community. Across all of our community contributors put together, we have a reach of about 2 million community contributors. Within the Ontology community itself, there's about 600,000 community contributors, and this is across 19 different languages. So Ontology is present everywhere: North America, South America, right? English and Spanish, but also in Europe, in Asia, like in China, in Korea and Japan, Australia and Africa. So everywhere you could find Ontology community members. About our highlights, we have forward-thinking architecture, so we think both about the main chain and the chain network, and also layer 2 solutions like sharding. We have high performance, high scalability consensus mechanism, because with blockchains, you think a lot about consensus and scaling. How can these blockchains scale? We have a mature product set, development toolkits for dApps to help develop more complex dApps, make it easy for them to develop on Ontology. We have a common trust layer for dApps, right? More tools for them. Blockchain solutions database, so companies can come to us and say that they want to integrate blockchain into their business. We're able to help with that, as well as a growing ecosystem for these business collaborations. So we can, Ontology is a very enterprise-focused and enterprise-ready blockchain. So what are some of these use cases that we work on? So as mentioned before, the most common thing people think of when they think of identity is identity for people. So we offer a multi-source identity system for people, where people can have an Ont ID that comes with each address that's generated on the network, and they can attach different properties to it that they receive from different people. So you have your skills, you have preferences, you have actions that you take on the network, you have ownership over assets on the network, you have characteristics about yourself. So concretely, these could take the form of government identification, or degrees or diplomas from schools, or certifications from institutions, reputation. These come from the variety of sources, like mentioned: governments, banks, companies, cooperators, even down things, reputation coming from family, from classmates, from coworkers, from friends. All of these things put together kind of make up your collective identity. Identity is a very relative concept. Like, most of it is described from other things. So through Ontology, you're able to put together a sovereign identity of who you are, keep the ownership of it, keep it all private, and then choose who you want to share that identity with. So maybe using your identity to access certain services like KYC, to revealing your government identity to be able to access an exchange, or say revealing your education history when applying for a certain job, or revealing your reputation with regards to a particular task when, say like when brokering like a real estate deal, or like seeing like your past history and how good you are, like, you know, if you're leasing out your house, people can go and look at your reputation. So having identity attached to people creates a lot of these different use cases. The second one is with identity for objects. So when you have an object, you know, really what we're talking about is IoT. When you have an IoT device for like a sensor, say a sensor or a smart car or a smart toaster or whatever, this object has relationships to other objects. There's relationships with money because you can load up the balance of it, or you can, you know, like say a smart car, you could load up a balance of a smart car that would enable it to spend money on gas, right? Like you could just automate like all of those payments. It has relationship with people who are the owners, who can access it, who can turn it on, who is licensed to be able to use it, and it has relationships with other goods. So like how can these smart devices interact with each other? And there are tangible characteristics as well that could also be stored. Like what are the properties? What are the identifying factors? Like where is it located? Like GPS wise, you know, what time was it activated? How long has it been turned on for? How much energy is it using? All of these things are things that can be created and collectively create the identity for this object. So through Ontology, you can create a network of IoT devices that are managed in a distributed way, and that people can add their objects to the network. With the distributed data exchange, this kind of applies the identity to pieces of data. And this kind of goes along with what we were saying earlier, that people have ownership over their data. And they have ownership over the way that they exchange their data. So they, you know, for say like trading, if you're trading assets between people deployed entirely through smart contracts, you would have someone that would authenticate that they own that smart contract, which is authenticated on the blockchain. They're able to reveal the data that they have and trade it amongst this network. So, you know, previously, like right now, big companies they all own your data, but instead what we're trying to do is give you that sovereign identity, have the data stored locally with you. You're the only one that can access it, but say you do want to sell it, you should have the ability to. You should be able to monetize it. And so this helps. We give a secure and private way for you to be able to selectively reveal your information to who you want to, and also reveal it only if there is an exchange of value. So like if you get something back for it, which is either normally it's a payment, but you could also create these interesting marketplaces where people are sharing data with each other or sharing any kind of asset with each other. Some more use cases: distributed collaborative systems. So say like in healthcare, you know, if you want to go see a doctor, you can do doctor reviews and see the reputation of doctors. You can see the medical licenses that these doctors have. You can verify that your doctor has the proper medical license for whatever treatment you're seeking. You can see their credentials. Now, when the doctor gives you a prescription, that prescription can also be on the Ontology network. And then you would go to the pharmacy, and to the pharmacy, you would show them that prescription. You know, right now, doctors just kind of scribble on a sheet of paper, and the reason their signatures look so horrible is because they're actually trying to make it hard to forge. But you know, it's just ink and paper, so you could easily forge that even still. So having that on the blockchain as well, having the pharmacy be a part of the collaborative system, you could have blockchain-based signatures for doctors that are signed and then taken to the pharmacy. Same thing with the hospital, right? Because the doctors are part of the hospital, the pharmacies have to communicate with the hospitals communicate with the doctor, you have to communicate with the doctor and the hospitals. And all of this could be managed through the OntID. Another example is decentralized inclusive financial services. So this is like kind of what people think of with, one example is what people think of with DAOs. If you have a amount of money that's locked up, you could have people voting on where the money goes based off of who they are. You know, you could have different weights for the different votes based off of the reputation of people in the past, or just based off of, you know, their identity, or like whatever metrics you want to define. Like maybe these people are more qualified to make decisions with these money because these people have blockchain-based certifications given out by these institutions. So, maybe like financial advisors have more access. If you have a network where you're playing with money, or you're like investing in money, you could bring on a financial advisor who's a licensed financial advisor and has access to your stocks and has access to your crypto assets, that's able to help you make these kinds of good decisions. It's just creating different kinds of inclusive services, letting people start lending crypto, letting people start borrowing, and using that like you could have decentralized credit scores on the blockchain, you could have decentralized reputation-based just identity on there. You can really create all these kinds of interesting financial instruments entirely on-chain. And then the next one is distributed content generation and trade. So the same way that you would do it for finances, you could do it for any kind of content. So say like intellectual property or patents or copyright, you can control the licensing out of those things on chain. So like if I have a patent and I want to issue it to someone else for a certain use for a certain amount of time, you can manage the royalty payments, you can manage the licensing, you can manage the sub-licensing, the authorship, the ownership entirely through the network. So going more into the Ontology technology itself, the core protocol is a ledger system, is a blockchain system, it has smart contracts, and it's has security protocols in place. There's different entity management for the main protocol. On top of that, we have an application framework with the application framework. We have different SDKs, we have different APIs, different modules that help you interact with the blockchain, interact with the mainnet. We also have all of the protocols that we mentioned earlier. So we have a decentralized identity protocol, we have a data exchange protocol, we have user authentication protocol, we have a way to read the data. We have all of these things that are built on top of the main net. So it's not just a generic smart contract blockchain platform, but we also have all of these specialized tools that help enable all of these additional services that I think are very important. If we want to have blockchain, we do want blockchain to be able to affect the real world. We want to think about blockchain and supply chain, blockchain and healthcare, blockchain and energy, all of which are things that having an identity solution and having a data exchange framework are both super necessary, which don't come natively on a blockchain, but Ontology has built them into our application framework. For a performance comparison, we use the VBFT consensus mechanism, which gives us a very high performance efficiency, over 5,000 transactions per second, with a medium confirmation time for our consensus. Essentially what this means, with 5,000 transactions per second, it helps us do many transactions very, very quickly on the network. If you send Ontology, or if you request to view, if you do any kind of on-chain transaction or use any kind of dApp, it will be confirmed almost instantly, no matter where you are in the world. We've tested this. We've run tests, stress tested, done audits on it, between the nodes that we have, and we can verify that it has this high consensus under this kind of pressure. What VBFT is VBFT uses the V, is verifiable random function Byzantine fault tolerance. So the V is for a verifiable random function. So what verifiable random function does is it chooses a random consensus node in the Ontology network each round to participate. So it chooses the different random nodes that participate in the consensus. And that keeps it, by keeping it truly random, it helps protect against attacks. It helps protect against collusion, which are important things in blockchain, right? You want to keep everything completely random so everyone's acting fair and you don't know which nodes are going to be picked for the next consensus round. So we use VRF to keep that in track. Our ecosystem partners, we have many different ecosystem partners in payments, between entertainment, between the different platforms that we have. We're supported on a lot of wallets. We're also supported on a lot of exchanges. All of these things together create a very diverse ecosystem. These dApps talk to each other. They integrate with each other. They help these tools like help fund ontology projects. They help list, if the wallets and the exchanges, they list tokens that are launched on top of the ontology network. And the games, we have non-fungible tokens that interact with each other. We have decentralized content networks that are like decentralized social media networks, either for video or for music or for content like written content. And we have a lot of decentralized finance applications, so a lot of lending and a lot of collateralized lending services, a lot of using crypto on your debit card kinds of services. So a very, very big variety of projects that are already building on ontology, and we actively work with and support and coordinate with so that our roadmaps are aligned and that we're kind of working on similar things, and that in the future, like, we will work more closely with these projects and nurture their growth alongside our own growth on the core protocol, as opposed to just developing in silos. So we also work on products ourselves and services ourselves. The main one is Onto. So Onto is our mobile wallet. And with our mobile wallet, it contains all sorts of, it has all your ONT assets. So all your OEP4 tokens are listed on there. But we also support Ethereum and other blockchains as well. So the wallet is a cross-chain wallet. You can use it to store all of your, you can use it to store crypto from different chains. It also has your Ont ID in it as well, so you can manage your Ont ID and your credentials directly on it. And lastly, it has a dApp browser, so you can go browsing through all of the different dApps that we mentioned. You could just go through them all and interact with them and use them directly entirely from your mobile wallet. And the mobile wallet is both on Android and iOS, so it already is supported by both of the major smartphone players. And you could also stake directly from the mobile wallet. That's another new thing that came out recently. So you can really manage, like, as a consumer, the entire, and you can interact with the entire ontology ecosystem entirely from the Onto wallet. For developers, we have a lot of tools and services to make development more easier. We have SDKs in Java, in TypeScript, in Python, in Go, in Kotlin. So whatever programming language you're most familiar with, ontology works for that. And the smart contract itself is written in Python or in JavaScript or in C++. So you don't have to learn a new language to go and make smart contracts on ontology, which is why a lot of developers like ontology. We're bringing in a lot of CS developers that are not blockchain developers that are now becoming blockchain developers, because we can support smart contracts in languages that they're already familiar with, as opposed to having them learn entirely new languages. We have a DAPI, which is an API for dApps and the communication with dApps. So if someone wants to make a dApp, they have to have a way to link the buttons in the dApp to the actual underlying protocol. Like if I click this button, that says enter into the next poker game. If I make a poker dApp and the button says cast my next bet, cast the 5 Ont bet or whatever, how do I link that button to the actual protocol? That's what the DAPI is for. That helps you link to the actual ontology and make those calls to the blockchain. We have Cyano Wallet, which is a in-browser Chrome extension that works on Firefox, works on Brave, works on Chrome. And that is just a web browser / mobile wallet in your browser. So as you browse the different websites, if you come across an ontology compatible website, you can connect your wallet directly to it and just interact with the dApp and make the payments or do whatever it is that you need entirely from your browser with the Cyano wallet. We have SmartX, which is an entirely online IDE for smart contract development. So it's entirely online. You just go to a web page, and it has some sample smart contracts. You can link it to your GitHub, and you can create, test, debug, and deploy smart contracts entirely from your browser and run it on entire in C# and Python and JS and in Golang. So, you can do that entirely online without needing to download anything. You're able to create ontology smart contracts. We also have the Pinos suite. So the Pinos suite is our dApp development framework. So that's how we kind of package up the dApps into different templates, into different modules to help dApp developers get started and just create these products. So developing the ontology ecosystem. So now we're going to go into the global community contributors that we have. So what the global community contributors are is a network of contributors that we have across the world that we offer support to in exchange for measurable things that they do for the network and that the ways that they help grow the network. So why would someone become a GCC? For the short term, there are a lot of incentives. We're focusing on building a powerful community ecosystem, and people will be a part of our incentive program. We have 100 million ONT that we're giving out to communities to support communities that are helping grow the ontology ecosystem, that are contributing to the ontology ecosystem in various ways. For the midterm, ultimately, it's not just to grow ontology, but it's also to grow the communities themselves, right? Like the communities that we work with are communities that are actively bringing blockchain to their cities, to their countries, that are helping with mass adoption, that are getting places to start accepting crypto, and that are onboarding people onto the blockchain, the blockchain ecosystem. And for the long term, this helps. This helps everyone. This is just a healthy and distributed ecosystem. For us, we do a lot of partnerships with companies and with industry partners and enterprise level partners. And ultimately, the partnerships that we strive for are for the benefits of the community, like creating more opportunities for inclusive finance, giving people more transparent healthcare, giving people their own data, the right to their own data, and the privacy to their own data that they can then choose for themselves if they want to monetize or not. So being a part of this program is a commitment to helping distribute these services to people and helping expose people to these better ways, these better services that we're co-creating with all of our partners. Who can become an ontology co-builder? So we try to make it for as many different kinds of group as possible. Influencers, key opinion leaders in the industry that have a good amount of followers that can help with onboarding, that can help with adoption, that can help with educating the masses and helping people get past this steep learning curve that blockchain has. With business connectors, so people and organizations that can connect with more businesses, connect with more companies that want to integrate blockchain and want to deploy blockchain-based solutions, with community organizations that have communities that are part of their network, that have a lot of people that are into blockchain or that they can expose to blockchain. It's always easier to test out new services and to test out blockchain use cases with a community that is innovative and forward-thinking and is on board, than it is to just kind of cold deploy it into, out there into the world. We're looking for research organizations that want to do research and do R&D, write papers, do analysis. Blockchain is so early. No one in the industry knows where it's going to go, and we have very, very little data to go off of. Very few simulations have been run to really understand the tokenomics behind what everyone is doing, the crypto economics behind everything. So there's always a need for more research. There's a need for more analysis on the effects of what everyone is doing in this space and the effects that it could have in the future. We're looking for developers because developers build the products. Developers are a part of the ecosystem, both as enterprise level products that we're making within companies, but also as open source projects that developers can build and maintain, right? The kinds of dApps that people come together and just make. So like anyone from individual developers that want to just contribute to existing code bases to teams that are working on new projects and new startups that we can be a part of and help support. And then others. So like whatever doesn't fit into these categories, if you still have ideas, or if you have a way for contributing to the community, whatever way you can contribute to the community is a valid way of being involved. What these groups can get from Ontology, there are official community representatives for Ontology in that region. So, that's a lot of ownership. Like Ontology is a big brand. It's one of the top 30 blockchain projects. So having that legitimacy of Ontology behind your community or behind your project definitely helps with being an established leader in that area, and also with having a good reputation and having legitimacy in that area. By becoming an Ontology node, which the way that we're issuing out this program is, so like each global community contributor runs a node, and this node in Ontology is how the rewards are distributed. So that person would have to run a node, or that organization would have to run a node, and Ontology would help with the setup and the maintenance of the node. But also, right, the point of running a node is to then participate in the governance and to be a part of the profit sharing, be a part of the governance of the entire Ontology network. This enables a first-hand experience for the community from the latest blockchain products. So like mentioned, like Ontology is rolling out all of these new services. Our ecosystem partners are rolling out all of these new services in inclusive finance, in healthcare, in online work, in new wallets, and new ways of making more crypto, new ways of monetizing data. And our community partners, our GCC nodes, are the first ones that will be user testing these products and giving feedback and helping us or helping our entire ecosystem figure out how to make these products and services better for when they start deploying into like other markets. They can build their own community based off of Ontology and receive incentives in the growth. So we'll support the growth of the network, support the growth of your community, which supports the growth of your node. There's additional incentives based on the influence. So the bigger the community is, or the more the community helps and the more the community contributes, the more that it will find its way back into the community. So the more support that we'll be able to give. And then the gain by growing the rewards generated by the community node. Yeah. The more that the node contributes, the more ONT that Ontology will be able to stake on that node, on that node's behalf, and therefore the more rewards that the node receives. The reward structure is we have 100 million ONT in the funding pool. So when the GCC node, so when the new node is set up between, whether it's run by an influencer or an organization or a community group or a research institution. So there is the first is just like a regular node. People can choose to stake with it. People can choose to, in the Ontology, in the Onto, or on their mobile wallet, or on the desktop wallet, people can choose which nodes they want to stake with. So just from the community, that node can get more staking rewards from people choosing to stake with that node. Plus the foundation will also put in more ONT to stake for that node. So that node will benefit, even if, say, it's a smaller node with a smaller community, if they can still contribute a lot to the network, Ontology will help support that node and help its growth. And then there's also revenue sharing for business ideas that come from that node and from that community. So lots of opportunities for rewards. So going more into it, yeah, each Ontology will give each GCC a certain amount of ONT to initiate a node based off of the ability for increasing the Ontology awareness. So, these kinds of, what are these kinds of metrics? These metrics are things from growing the Ontology community, X number of people per month, measuring activity and engagement. We don't just want a bunch of new people to join, post once in a Telegram, and never post again. We're really thinking about how do we grow an active community? How do we grow an engaged community? People that are going to participate in the network, participate in the conversations. We think about technical outputs. That would be like development work if the community group is a more developer-oriented community group. We think about business leads if the community group is more of like like a business connecting kind of group, like say a VC firm that wants to help by connecting us to their portfolio companies or connecting our ecosystem projects to their portfolio companies. Different ways for them to get involved. Number of projects that come from the network that have potential, that can grow, that become real products and services. Number of events. So if the community group is mainly an event-focused group, or they do a lot of events, throwing ontology events are different ways that they can get rewards. The products, number of OntID addresses. So OntID addresses is one of the ways that we measure the growth of a community, because OntID addresses are unique for people, for each person. So that's a good way that we can measure the growth. And then we also take your suggestions for contribution. So each node is different. Each node has different value adds and different things that they can offer. So we listen to whatever suggestions people have. And then like we mentioned, the two different rewards, the two types of rewards put together, the more ONT that's staked by the foundation, the more rewards that the individual nodes gets. We structure the rewards mechanism differently for each node, or custom tailored to each node, so that it's like ideally optimized for them. And then there's even more. The bigger the node gets, there's opportunities for even more rewards from the foundation. There's also the revenue shared from the business leads and from products that actually come out of the network, because we're very like enterprise focused, and we focus on actually making things, actually deploying them out there and putting it out there, because there are people that need these solutions now. And we're always thinking about how can we align incentives with our community? How can we share the revenue with community? How can we share the profits and ultimately share the impact? So if you want to know more, these are a bunch of social media links that all link back to our community in the different ways. We have a very active Telegram, very active Discord. The Onto app, you could scan that to download the Onto app. You can follow us on Twitter and see all of our announcements and the things that we post on our Reddit. You can also just email us directly at contact@ont.io if you want to get in touch about any of our programs, or if you have a project that you're working on that you want more support from for Ontology, or you want to integrate it into Ontology. So thank you. I should have had some water for this because my voice got really dry at the end, but thank you guys for listening. Please reach out. We'd love to support, be a part of the ecosystem. We're all over the world. And yeah, thank you for listening.